Okay, so it is a challenge trying to catch up to these leaders up here, and I am not really making a tremendous amount of progress. Unfortunately, I did, however, pick up my fifth win today, so I thought you might be interested in that. I've been tuning the deck, and I've been mostly using this since I know there's no way I can play enough games to catch up with all the time I lost. I've been using this opportunity to tune and tune and tune. So, as you can see, 5-0, interesting, and I have some interesting games for you to check out today. So far, as a result of playing in the league with his deck, and I've picked up 928 play points, 147 tickets, 9 treasure chests, and 4 mox points. At one time, I had like 30 something mox points, and they wiped them all out. So I don't know what happened, but those don't seem particularly useful. However, the rest is very, very nice. Basically going infinite. So while this deck may not be the number one deck and may not get you to the top of the ladder consistently, you can use it certainly to get a very nice nest egg for playing and buying things online. So that seems pretty good. So what changes have we made so far? Quite a few. It's difficult to compare it to what I had before, but rather I'd rather just talk about what's in here that may not have been in there before, and I forget what has come out. I apologize for that. But I went ahead and upped the land to 33, and I went to 3 basic islands. So I still have the irrigated farmland as a tithe target for cycling, and all the rest of the lands are actually the same. I just pumped it up to 33 lands. I did take out, oh, I do recall now, I took out the 3-drop mana rocks. I felt like at 3 mana, it was far too dangerous to tap out for mana rocks and potentially lose a game against decks that can, polymorph for 3 mana and just kill you. So I removed those. I put in more lands, and I also put land tax in now that I have 3 basic islands to tax for. I do not have Scroll Rack, however. I have a different card, Sabo's Web. And I believe you saw that in the last video. I left that in there. I also put Jitte in the deck. So I think I had Skull Clamp before. I moved it to Jitte because against aggressive decks that have red in them, Clamp is just not that great. Jitte is. A lot of times you're going to be killing Breya's little flyers anyway, so you really just need Jitte to kind of like lock up the board. Whereas with Clamp, you kill the flyers and then you're looking for a way to lock up the board. It's kind of not so good. So yeah, I made that switch there. The other thing that I did, I went ahead and put I was having a bit of struggles today against green. I didn't have enough. I had bent my deck too hard to deal with the Baral deck, so I actually added. So the Jitte will help with that, but I also added Treachery to the main, and I put a singleton copy of Diabolic Edict in the main. Originally, my intent was to run Scepter, Isochron Scepter, but because of Abrupt Decay, I don't feel comfortable doing that, or very comfortable doing that. So I'm not doing that. I just have Diabolic Edict. And what this does is it's good against green, but it's also good against the Baral combo decks, and it's good against Tasigur, because frequently you can take out Tasigur very cheaply and easily and force them to have to get it back down on the table. I also have a main deck Gilded Drake. Now, I don't know if I had that before, but the reason for that is that Gilded Drake steals a Emrakul very nicely. So if you notice, this deck's got solutions for Emrakul all over the place. So you've got Jace to bounce it, Abyss to kill it, Gilded Drake to steal it, and Edict to take it down. So there's 4 different ways you can deal with Emrakul if the Emrakul actually gets on the board. And meanwhile, unfortunately, you can't Treachery it though, because Treachery is a spell on the stack, and I believe he's protection from being targeted. I may be wrong, so let me know if I'm wrong about that. But I don't think you can Treachery it, but the rest you can do. You need a permanent in play that removes it. So like if Treachery were, say, Oblivion Ring, it would work. But as Treachery, I don't think it does work. Again, if you know, I'd love to know. So please let me know. Another card and with that said, if you need more, if you feel like you need more answers to a resolved Emrakul, then of course you can always pack in cards like Oblivion Ring and others. Ring's a little bit risky because your opponent could potentially end of turn bounce it, pop an Emrakul into play, untap, and then kill you by attacking and annihilating all of your permanents. So it's a little bit risky. However, you can actually, if they do try to make that play, you can actually stifle the return to play effect, in which case they would not get their creature back, and you would put a Oblivion Ring in your hand for their next play. So it could be good. It's definitely a card to think about for this deck, but at present, I like Treachery a little bit better because it does broken stuff with Winter Orb. So enough on discussing deck changes, but yeah, this is a reflection of how tight the format is and how dangerous it is to tap out. And let's get on with some games. So, also, there's more card draw in here. I don't remember if I had the Delve cards before, but they're absolutely necessary, I think, because of all of our tutors put us at a disadvantage against blue, and so we need to be able to recover those cards. I believe I was finishing, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, this one didn't go so well. I had two net losses there. The other one went pretty well. 2 losses is a very disappointing way to start. Probably not as disappointing as this guy though. Aetherman 0 lost to me in the last round of the previous event. I immediately joined a new one, and so did he, and we got paired up again. So let's run some games. There was a glitch in one of these games, and my opponent, we talked about it, and hopefully it was Dicebeth's game, and hopefully he gets compensated for that. I definitely suggested that he, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I suggested that he apply for compensation, and I'm sure he didn't need me to suggest that, but I just thought, maybe if they saw in chat that I also felt it was, his opponent thought it was a BS situation, then maybe, I don't know if that influences them or not, but why not? Why not do what I can? So anyway, this guy with Marith leading off with Skull Clamp makes me sad right off the get-go. I'm going to close Breya. If it would just stay closed, that'd be fantastic. All right, so I play Arid Mesa because I don't really want to get strip mined. I could play Tithe. So I could have played Plateau, let him play the second land, and then Tithe. But I didn't really want to draw 2 lands and then discard. I'm looking for a way to get a card out of my hand beforehand. And look at this. Sylvan Library. I don't know how I win this game because he has 2 of the most busted card drawing cards in play before I can even get my second mana down. And I basically just mulliganed. All right, so luckily he doesn't take cards right away. So he plays Marath, and that's a way to get a card out of my hand so that I can Tithe. So we're going to go ahead and just evasive action that for 3. So mana leak it. And then, oh, look at that nice little rip there. Okay, I guess I could have dealt with it that way, but that'll be for the next one. So I'll go ahead and get a black source. Now I have Deprive. Actually, in hindsight, I was really thinking about this. Do I really want to deprive here? Would I deprive here? I guess maybe, because I could deprive picking up Plateau and then replay a land and have Stoic. So I suppose it's not crazy, but I kind of felt like maybe here I should have Merchant Scrolled, not for Force of Will, but I have Red Blast in my hand, so if I can go get Parallax Wave, I can set up for the 1-2 punch and exile all of his lands and make his card drawing a lot weaker. My opponent, however, Worldly Tutors himself a Thrun. Plays a Temple of Plenty after Worldly Tutor, which is a very odd sequencing. Probably tired or something. And then just passes. So I go ahead and just play a land, and I was thinking about, all right, well, what's the way to do, best thing to do here? And I figure he's almost certainly going to play Thrun. I can't counter it, and I don't need to Merchant Scroll and fiddle around. Let's just get Breya down and put some pressure on him. That way he's disincentivized to use Sylvan Library, and if he does not realize that he shouldn't be using it too much, then I can punish him for it. So he did actually take a card there. He's down to 21. He's taken 2 extra cards. Took some damage with Sacred Foundry and plays Thrun, which is kind of what we thought was going to happen. Hopefully not swordsing my guy or anything. And then I had forgotten about Skull Clamp. I really wasn't happy that I was about to give him more cards with the Thrun, but not a heck of a lot I could do. So I go ahead and ponder. I'm looking for lands. I just want to hit land drops. And I see a very saucy top 4, but I really just want to hit land drops. I shuffle them away, and I do not hit a land drop. I hit Treachery. So, okay. I guess we'll go that route. So draw more cards, opponent. You card drawing fiend over there. So fortunately, though, with Sylvan running, he's actually down to 12. Sylvan in non-blue decks is very bad. It's very bad. But Sylvan in blue decks is even worse, and at least he's not playing a blue deck here, because you basically can't beat the card advantage at all if they're playing green and blue and get a Sylvan, unless maybe you're mono red or something. So anyway, he tutors up a Umezawa's Jite, plays a Basilisk Color, and then plays Thalia, which I was not happy to see. I was hoping he'd just play his Jite. So I'm going to go ahead and just swords the Stoneforge in response. And the reason is I'm trying to keep pressure on him because I can kill Thalia with flyers, but this way he doesn't really have an effective chump block. I finally drew a land. And that's what I want, him not chump blocking. So now he's at 6. So if I had one more artifact in play, I'd actually just finish him off right now. But I do not. So I'm going to leave Thalia in play and hope that Thalia actually, first of all, if he starts futzing around with equipment, I might choose to kill it. Secondly, if you do the math on the Basilisk Color, if he equips that and hits me for 2, he'll go to 8, and then I hit him back for 6, and then throw 2 guys at him and kill him next turn. So that's actually not a solution for him. And finally, I can counter Stoic Rebuttal's got the discount on it. So I'm not really in too bad of a spot. And if he tries to animate like Raging Ravine and put color on it, of course, that's not going to work at all. And he can't clamp. I mean, he could clamp Thalia and get rid of it, but then that just kind of frees me. So, I mean, I'm just going to chill out here unless he makes me make a play. He goes for Breya. Breya is something that'll get in my way, and I pretty much am just trying to finish this game here. So let's Stoic Rebuttal that. Thankfully, I'm not playing a Loro. And then he plays Smuggler's Copter. I was thinking about it. Do I need to respond with Breya's ability or what? But actually, even if he activates Thalia to turn on the Copter, he would have to chump block because otherwise he's going to take 5 from unblocked creatures. So that doesn't actually do much for him. And if I drew a land here, I could have played land, cast Treachery on this, untap all my stuff. He would have activated Smuggler's Copter, of course. Assuming I drew an island, then I just Cryptic it back to his hand and then win, which was what I was certainly hoping for. Or just an island to Cryptic and tap all his blockers would have been fine. But I get neither of those, so I believe... So here's the problem, though. Even if he just blocks the flyers, he's going to take 2. So the other way, he would have gone down to... if he didn't block the flyers, if he had activated Copter and blocked the flyer, rather, he would have just died. If he blocks Breya, he just dies. I don't need to overthink it, but hey, who knows what he could have. I can't think of a card, but just in case, with that thing off the table, I'm going to go ahead and Merchant Scroll, just in case. And we'll go get Force of Will, and now we'll sack and kill him. And this way, if he has like Nourishing Shoal or something crazy, I've got it covered. All right, so he's dead. And we can move on to game 2. So poor Aether Man, lost in the finals, lost in his first round. Same deck. That would be kind of disappointing. On the other hand, at least it's feedback that he probably needs to do some work if he thinks that this deck is worth changing his deck for, and it may not be. So I've got this opening hand, and I'm going first finally against Tasigur. This is a good enough hand going first. Going second, probably not, but... Ooh, that was nice. So I'm going to go ahead and take a little risk here, but I don't want to take a big risk. So a little risk is playing Signet over White Signet over Izzet. The Izzet's more important, and when he taps land in response, I thought, he's going to force spike me. But actually, he just Thought Scours away 2 of his best cards, which was awesome. But that means he can play Tasigur next turn, which is insane. This commander is so stupid in this format. Luckily, he doesn't have a fetch land, so... He plays Loam for 0, tapping out, which is really nice. So let's go Signet. And I'm going to take a risk here and try to DAC my way into finding what I want. You saw an Emrakul flash up on the screen. That's a glitch. I don't know why that happened. I did not draw Emrakul at any time. It's just a glitch of appearances. So I was looking at this hand here. I don't think that, as much as I want to will strip mine him, I don't think that that's going to be great against the Life from the Loam. And I like Jite a lot, but I don't know that I like it enough to, I don't know that I'd rather, I think I'd rather have Forbid here. Maybe Maybe that was a mistake. Hard to say. So look at that. He loams into nothing. Sylvan, Mox, Intuition, three more. Well, I don't know about. Well, Mox and loam is insane, right? Sylvan, pretty much the best thing he could have drawn for the turn. That was his draw if he hadn't loamed. But on the bright side, he gets to Tasigur. Bright side for him. And then he plays an Arbor, so he's safe from an Edict effect. I drew Parallax Tide and then Dak Fade myself, so I was trying to think, okay, how are we going to Mana Scroll? Because that's pretty much the only way you can keep Tasigur from coming back infinitely. You've just got to Mana Screw the opponent. And Dak kind of delivers the goods. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw a Parallax Tide here and a Watery Grave. Hope he has nothing. I actually mistap here and then correct myself. Cast Crucible, it resolves, replay the grave from the graveyard, and down comes Duretti, and now we can kill Tasigur right away and get rid of the Azorius Signet. Not that I wanted to get rid of the Signet, but I wanted to get rid of the Tasigur, so it was worth it. And my opponent scoops. So I've got a Strip Mine and play with Crucible, double Planeswalkers. He can bonk Duretti once, but I mean, he gets to loam, but I haven't actually started strip mining anything yet, and loam's not in his graveyard. Did he exile it? No. But yeah, loam's not in his graveyard. Of course, if he doesn't do something pretty spectacular here, then I get to untap and I get to hold the line with Crucible and counters. I'm going to quickly go after any mana that might allow him to cast Abrupt Decay and hope that that's good enough. But yeah, apparently he thought it was good enough, so I finally beat the evil Tasigur deck, the evil Tasigur draw where they thought Scour and just slammed Tasigur immediately. Fortunately, a very good hand. So I played Dicefeth here in the last like one or two tournament attempts, and no, 2 tournaments ago in the finals, and he knocked me out. Although I misplayed horrendously against him. So against Baral, what you want to do is you want to like kind of do nothing except develop your mana in your hand, and then you want to fight over polymorph, and then follow up with some way to clear out the Emrakul. So what you don't want to do, and the reason you want to do it that way is because once they polymorph the Baral off, they don't get the discount on their spells anymore. And so you can fight over polymorph, and then you let it resolve with just enough calculated like solutions and counter magic after the fact, and then they don't have anything. So that's like, this deck is actually highly favored. It's like an 80+% win rate against Baral. However, look at this insane start my opponent's got. First turn Baral, so he's got potential for turn 2 polymorph, and it wasn't for the fact that I added Edict to this deck, I'd be pretty scared right now. But with that Edict in the deck, I'm feeling okay. In fact, my opponent's run most of his cards out, so this is very good for me. And again, this is what you do against Baral. So normally against blue, you want to like slam Dark Confidant, but against this deck, unless you know for a fact it's going to land, you just don't do anything. You just, unless your hand says, if your hand is just completely useless crap, well then I guess you got to go for it. But otherwise, the way to beat Baral is to do nothing. It's not going to, just keep in mind, of course, they can't be allowed to get to 15 mana because of Emrakul, hard cast. But other than that, so, all right, opponent's doing what he does over there. So he gets a Wasteland, and I think, okay, great, I'm going to stifle the Wasteland. He's already hurting for cards and mana. Well, not mana, but for cards, and if I stifle a Wasteland, that's just another card out of his hand. If he fights me over it, I just let it go, because I've got plenty of land drops. But he doesn't actually use it, which is kind of interesting here. So the nice thing about the higher land counts, we can just go ahead and play draw go with these silly blue decks, these stupid blue Baral net decks. Not that I blame people for, necessarily net decking. So at the end of my turn, he plays Synthetic Destiny. So it's a 6-drop that costs 5 with Baral. It says exile all creatures he controls at the beginning of the next end step. he basically polymorphs for every creature. So I'm going to let that go because that is a triggered ability, and I've got plans for that. All right, so it's my opponent's turn. He draws for the turn. Kind of glad he didn't use the Wasteland and I didn't use the Stifle. So he goes for a Baral here. And I want to counter this. And the reason I want to counter this is if something goes wrong with my game plan to address Emrakul, then I need to Edict. And that means Baral cannot be in play. So I go ahead and just counter that. And then, come on. All right, so Synthetic Destiny's triggered ability goes on the stack. You cannot do this with Polymorph, but you can with this card. I'm going to Stifle it. And then something very strange happens. And this is why. So my opponent returns 3 islands to thwart it. I'm actually super fine with this because, we're holding Edict and he just, triple returned lands. But for no reason at all, we can't figure out exactly what happened here, and this is why he needs to report this. The Synthetic Destiny does not resolve. Like, it didn't show me a bunch of cards. Like, he's not holding Emrakul. It just literally did nothing. As if I had stifled it, even though he thwarted the stifle. And when you look in the logs, cast thwart, targeting stifle. So, no idea what happened right there. And I told him that if he wanted to go ahead and concede after I played this Dark Confidant, that I would reveal to him why it didn't actually matter. Well, it mattered, but why he would not have actually won. So he draws a card for the turn and then concedes, and then I show him my hand that I have the Edict, because I would have played land Edict, and then cast Dark Confidant right away, and then from there, I don't see how I don't take over that game completely. So he felt probably a little bit ameliorated, but ultimately, like, he should get compensated regardless of the fact that I had the Edict in my hand, because that should have never happened. So it was a very, very strange game there, but I think we had it well in hand. However, so I still feel like it was a win. I don't feel like cheesy for having accepted that win, but I would prefer such things don't happen, because for all I know, the next time it's going to happen to me, for starters, rather than him. And secondly, it's just not right. All right, so this is a great hand. So here's another one of those stupid Vial Smasher, basically net decks. All right, but I have an excellent hand, and for some, I don't know how it happened, but I managed to win the dice roll in this tournament, and I lead off with the Duress, and I take Force of Will. He lets me have Force of Will because every card in his hand is so dang good. He's not willing to give up he's not willing to force with Miscalc, Confluence, or Snare. So look at that hand. Snare, Slough, Confluence, Calc, Pyroblast, Mountain. So we're going to track that because this is an excellent game. So he top decked Polluted Delta, so his hand is still the exact same hand. So since I know he doesn't actually have a Strip Mine here, I'm going to go ahead and bank on him not drawing one immediately. And what he draws is Ponder. Dang it. Please don't find Strip Mine or Wasteland. So I don't remember. Oops. And what's really unfortunate about this is he also, if you notice, he had no blue, but he ripped blue into Ponder. So he chooses not to shuffle. So I guess he's digging for Strip Mine, and he either found it or he gave up on looking for it. And it turns out he gave up looking for it. So he plays his Canyon slow. So we'll cross that off the list. And that's a perfect opportunity to get Winter Orb down, because it's going to be very hard to resolve Winter Orb through a Snare, Miscalc, and Pyroblast unless he taps out, which fortunately he does. So step one, we got Winter Orb down. So he plays Badlands, so that was what he drew for the turn. So he still hasn't, he's hitting like very well on his land drops. I, however, am a little bit short on blue. And I was thinking about maybe using Grim and letting him snare it, but it doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense for me to do that. He may decide to like cast Vial Smasher and leave up Pyroblast here, and then Depending on what happens, like maybe I can try the Grim play, like just to tap more of his mana, but he doesn't tap any mana. He does play the Mountain, we knew about those, so his hand is 6 cards now, 4 of which we know, 2 of which we do not. But I'll play a little Drago for a bit. See, if I tap 2 for Grim, he snares it, and then he untaps his land, and other than getting Snare out of his hand, I didn't actually get him to tap lands permanently, which is actually what I want to happen. So, and then look at this. He goes Chrome Mox, okay, imprinting a Condescend. So that was one of the cards he drew. Chrome Mox must be another one of the cards, and then that leaves one other question mark. And passes. So I got to get something done. So I'm going to try to set myself up. So I go ahead and end a turn, fetch, and cast Mystical Tutor. So we'll see if he wants to Pyroblast this, then so be it. Otherwise, let's see what happens. But he does not. So I go fetch. After some deliberation, my own Pyroblast. And the reason I fetch Pyroblast is because he can't Pyroblast a Pyroblast. He basically can't misdirection it as long as I'm smart about how I play around misdirection. And he cannot Spell Snare the Pyroblast. So I can use Pyroblast to keep his big guy off the table, or I can use it as a way to push something through. So now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and cast the Grim. And he actually decides to let it go. And that's going to matter, as you'll see. Oh. So I get probed and can't do much about it. It's not worth trying to Pyroblast something stupid like that. I mean, the blast is basically in there for Mystic Confluence because I don't want him drawing 3 cards. Or for resolving things, though. Alright, so we each know basically each other's hands, although he has 2 mystery cards. I now have 1 mystery card. And with that mystery card in hand, I look at the board state and figure out exactly how I see this playing out. And so I am going to Yogg-Will. I need to get another blue first of all and play for Cryptic Command. So Will can't be addressed by any of the cards in his hand that I know of. And I don't want to wait for him to get cards that I don't know of that will solve the problem. But as it turns out, he taps blue, blue, and casts Logic Knot. X equals 4. So I actually could pay this. But then the Will is kind of pointless, so I decide I'm going to Red Blast it instead. I mean, I'd still get a land out of it, but nowhere near what I wanted. And with that, he sees a window of opportunity, and he Culligans commands in response to the Red Blast. Now, he probably should have done that after the Will resolved so that the Winter Orb is permanently destroyed. What I can actually do here, since the Will isn't actually resolved, is I can let the Winter Orb die, and then I could just replay it from the graveyard. So I think about, do I want to do anything about this, or can I do anything about it? And I decide, nah. Let's just throw away that Cryptic Command that doesn't seem to be very playable right now. Kill the Winter Orb, and resolve the Will, which means I can do, this is a very techie play, but I have exactly 1 mana floating, so I'm going to go ahead and just exile my Scalding Tarn right now, but I need to go get lands. And I'm going to cast from hand, so I could cast the Winter Orb, but he knows I have the Winter Orb, so I feel like this might be some kind of a setup. Although, we see the last 4 cards in his hand, we know what they are, so this is pretty safe. But anyway, I've got a better play than Winter Orb. Why orb me when I can just go after him? So I play Parallax Tide, and then here's the way to do this. I Parallax Tide my Underground Sea and let it resolve. Then I hold down Control and Parallax Tide each of his lands and respond to the exile effects by Red Blasting from the graveyard the Parallax Tide, the Red Blast I played this turn. Parallax Tide now returns all lands. The only land it's exiled so far is my Underground Sea, which was tapped and is now untapped. I then exile all 4 of his lands, and Will's still running. So let's go ahead and duress him from the graveyard as well. The only card I can see, just the same 4 cards he's had the whole game. So Spell Snare I can play around. Confluence is way too expensive. Blast he can't cast and I can play around. Miscalc is the only card that if he draws the land and plays it will affect anything. So we're going to take that. And I'm going to pass for the turn. And I just thought that was such a nice, it was a nice like little trick where Tide actually produced extra mana so that I could duress as well. And my opponent says, what a draw. Because he had seen my hand and he knew I did not have Parallax Tide. So no, had he not fought me over the Tide, I was just gonna had I not had Tide there, I was just gonna replay like Marsh Flats and then duress from the graveyard and then do some cool stuff there. But that was so much more satisfying. Basically a one-sided Winter Orb, if you want to look at it that way. Or more correctly, a one-sided Armageddon. So unless he drew a perfect card right here, there's nothing he can do about this next play. So I'm going to go ahead and make it right now before there is something he can do about it. So I play Sword because that's how I intend to win. And well, to put him away, because if he gets a red down, if he draws a red here, he can Pyroblast the Breya, but that's totally fine. We're gonna because I'll equip Sword on a flyer, and I'll even recast Breya, and it really won't get him too far. So at this point, my opponent thinks about what he might be able to do here and realizes there's effectively nothing that he can do, and he scoops up the cards. He packs it in. So very nice. Parallax has been the best tech. I saw somebody ask me why I'm not playing Armageddon. I am. It's just Armageddon for my opponent only. All right, so anyway, here I am with an amazing hand, and I win the dice roll against the Gitrog, which is fantastic. Plus he has to mulligan. This is a good start for me. So many dice rolls won this tournament makes all the difference. All right, so I get first turn Verdant Catacombs. He plays Overgrown Tomb. I thought about going Trader's Talisman and then cast Crucible and then play a land and then, but I decide, you know what, I don't have to rush it that badly. I can wait a turn and then that way, it puts it a little bit at risk from discard, but I want to play the City of Traders and use it a couple of times, not just once. So it's much better to get 4 mana out of it than 2, which means you want to kind of, try to sequence it correctly. So that Strip Mine with Crucible in hand was such a savage draw right there. So he's in a world of hurt and may or may not realize it. If he doesn't get some discard basically right now, then I've got him. But he is get Chrome Mox, so he could actually get a Gitrog out pretty fast here. He imprints a Diabolic Edict, which is a great way to use it against me. Since Edict against Breya, you have to time it before the birds come out. It's very hard to do. Okay, so with that Daimler Signet, I can actually play a little bit of defense rather than going full in on the Crucible plan. So I actually decide I'm gonna go ahead and Strip Mine there and then play myself a ready, and then rather than just sacking one of my things to kill his thing and then potentially have my guy get Abrupt Decayed and then I'm in a bad spot, I go ahead and just make a creature, and if he has an answer for this, then I'm probably pulling the answer that he would have used for Crucible out of his hand. He actually has Ancient Tomb, which is problematic. Into Oracle, please don't hit a land. No land hit, but he does have Sylvan Scrying, so. And he has a natural land in his hand, so so he ramped up pretty good. I thought I had him locked down completely, but he's managed to fix that very quickly. So on my turn, I was thinking about what to target, Chrome Mox or the Oracle, but the Oracle has the greatest. It's so risky. I've got to take the Oracle down. If I have a window, I can always eventually Duretti the Mox, or potentially Mystical Teachings for a disenchant. All right, so City of Traders is gone. But rather than strip mine here and open myself up, I know his next card's Sylvan Scrying, so he could just Sylvan Scrying into Bojuka Bog, and the whole recursion strip mine plan is wasted. Plus, he could have like a Planeswalker or anything, so I'm just going to chill out on Stoic here. I can double strip mine next turn maybe. He's got Thespian Sage, so now I'm thinking he's just going to go get target land and make a Merit Lage token. It'll take him a little while to get it done, one more turn, but he could do it. Instead, he goes for Gitrog, which I think makes perfect sense. That is certainly getting countered. Even though Duretti could deal with it eventually, I don't want to take the time to do that. And then I drew Edict, which would have took care of it. Oops. Oh well. All right, so I'm going to take out Ancient Tomb. That's way too scary to be in play. And I'm hoping I'm going to get a chance to Mystical Teachings here. My opponent's still got a ton of mana, so I'm trying to be careful. But now that I have Edict in my hand, if he gets Merit Lage token, I should be fine. If he uses Sylvan Scrying here and plays Dark Depths, I should be all right. Instead, he plays Crucible Worlds. I can't Mystical Teachings for Force Will because I don't have a blue card, so I'm just gonna have to let him get his Ancient Tomb. And then he starts to tap, and I think, what the heck is he gonna do here? It doesn't look good, but I think he didn't realize that the Chrome Mox doesn't make green. He was probably gonna Sylvan Scrying, so with that assumption, I go ahead and Mystical Teachings. I tap out. I mean, faking a counter is only so useful. I could have cycled Irrigated Farmland, but I'd rather spend 4 mana this turn and then go get my counter here and then try to straighten everything out that's going on. So on my turn, we're going to Duretti away Crucible using the creature I created last turn. Again, Wasteland Ancient Tomb. No Ancient Tomb for you, sir. And play Strip Mine. If he does nothing, then I'll tap all of my lands at the end of his turn. And using non-blue mana, I will cycle Farmland. But what he actually does is gives up. So that was it. I thought that was kind of cool. I was very pleased with in particular, the last game. There's some other really great games that I've had recently with this deck during testing, and I kind of wish that I had remembered, which ones they are. But one thing I can say is that the old 95% win rate is no longer in play for the control deck, due to a number of factors. One being, and the primus of which is the absurdity of cards like Tasigur, Sylvan Library, Nissa to a very large extent, and Baral. The 3 big decks are Tasigur, Baral, and Nissa. Like I am so bored seeing the same decks over and over. But on the other hand, it does give us a way to focus, and that's what's happened here. We've hyper tuning the deck to beat just those 3 decks. And it seems like they're very different decks, but they do have certain commonalities that you can attack. I actually found Edict to be so good, for example, against essentially all of them, that it may be worth running an additional one. Another card that I've also considered that could be worth running is Supreme Verdict. That seems pretty good. Oh, if you want to get more techy but take some risks at the same time, an additional solution for Emrakul would be to play Sower of Temptations over Treachery, since I'm pretty sure Treachery won't deal with Emrakul like I was saying before. So Sower will, because it comes down into play, then it says, hey, who do I get control of? So you don't have to target it while it's on the stack, which is the problem for Emrakul. So that could be a way you could do something, but I think in general that's probably not great, because then you open yourself up to a single bounce spell just crushing you, and it also means that it's just a much weaker card. With all the pickup lands and lands at tap, we have 5 lands at tap for 2. So Treachery, and also because of Winter Orb, Treachery is much stronger in this deck than it might appear at first glance, and it's already a very strong card. Another thing that I've kind of considered might be to run Bribery, since you can just go Bribery and Emrakul, which is awesome, against other decks like Tasigur. However, I don't know that they have anything you can target other than Deathrite Shaman. So I'm not sure that a 5 mana Deathrite Shaman is all that great. Maybe, but so I haven't put it in yet against green. Obviously, it's pretty gas because they have all kinds of Eldrazi and other crazy stuff. So if green, so right now I feel like I'm about evenly split on all of the decks in terms of like this deck kills Brawl very very well. So between Tasigur and the mono green Nissa deck, um, they're about even in terms of difficulty. If I put Bribery in, I'm pushing myself. What I'm saying is that green is harder than Tasigur. Another route, rather than running Bribery, would be to run a card called Telemin Performance. And Telemin Performance, it depends on like where what's going on, but Telemin Performance can single-handedly beat these decks that run somewhere between 1 and 0 creatures, because it actually millstones a ton of cards. So anyway, and has the potential to mill their entire deck. For example, if a Tasigur deck does not have enough creatures in it, or any, or they've drawn them, you could Telemin Performance their whole deck. The problem is, again, Bribery and Telemin Performance, the problem with these two cards are that they're 5 mana sorceries, and against those decks where you're struggling to get anything to resolve, 5 mana sorceries are probably not where we want to be. So that's the only thing that's really holding me back. But if green proves to be uh, a problem for this deck, then I think putting Bribery in at that point makes sense, since it hits two of the three top tier decks. It hits the green deck, but it also hits the Baral deck because you can just steal their Emrakul. So anyway, that's all I've got. Hope you enjoyed watching the 5.0. Hope you like these. If you want to see something different, of course, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just keep trying to produce the 5.0 videos. I did lose like 2 videos from earlier, but the deck wasn't as good as it is now. So maybe that's all for the best. And I will continue to keep tuning. And I look forward to your comments. Thank you for watching, everybody. And I'll see you next time.